Lucario in the Pokémon games, an iconic fan-favorite character consistently near the top in popularity polls, obtainable in some way in every generation since the 4th, and unlike certain other Mons, fans don't mind when this one gets special treatment, was even the only newcomer in the Brawl roster league that wasn't instantly resented, except by misguided Mewtwo fans. Lucario in Smash Bros? One of the least played characters in all of Ultimate. Something went wrong here. Built entirely around a gimmick and with a moveset restrained because said gimmick is so extreme, Lucario's Smash design has turned fans away in ways the character normally doesn't. But what if we could remake Lucario's moveset, stats, and other details, keeping what works and overhauling what doesn't, including taking the aura mechanic that's dragged the character's potential down so much and making it something that enhances the design instead of being polarizing and unfun. It won't be easy, but I think we can pull it off. So without further ado, let's remake it! Lucario is different from most Pokémon in Smash, with pros and cons to that. While most others focus on representing their entire species, this one has a distinct, less generic identity and personality. With details like an entrance animation that isn't being sent out of a Pokéball, this depiction is an individual character in a way only matched by Mewtwo. And the execution is lackluster. I think leaning into it more would help, giving this particular Lucario a less cliché personality than generic kung fu guy. Fitting a species able to manipulate their own inner auras, we can give this one a level-headed personality with clear restraint and discipline, normally. Once he's taken enough damage and his aura gets harder to contain, that's when the emotions come out. For example, his facial expression while charging Aura Sphere could be calmer at low percents, but once he hits 100% he starts glaring instead, and at 150% it becomes a full-on snarl. One of several ways to highlight the incredible amount of power that builds up and the mental strength required to control it. Speaking of balancing restraint and action, while the current alt colors are fine, I think there are ways to make them more varied and interesting. If it was my call, and there weren't any TPC mandates we don't know about, the light blue and green alts could stay, but I'd change the others. The reddish alt can swap to the full red used in Pokken Tournament. This is not the only time we'll pull from there. While the gray one becomes a darker palette inspired by Zoroark, Lucario's Gen 5's successor. The purple alt now resembles fellow fighting type Min Xiao, and here's a brand new beige one inspired by Midday Lycanroc, another successor of sorts. Didn't use Midnight or Dusk because Midday gives the alts more color variety. Finally, Smash rarely uses shiny palettes, but this one is so striking that I say go for it. In previous episodes, I tried to leave the character's fighting style intact, but in this case, the current playstyle is such a mess that I changed it to one that fits better. Always felt weird for a martial artist character to have bad footsies tools, so we're turning that around with better frame data and bigger hitboxes on several moves. Should make them more worth using proactively, instead of having to rely on punishes and cheesing early stocks before you lose yours. This does come with downplaying the aura mechanic, or at least making it less explosive, but it is still present, adding a dynamicness that changes Lucario's game plan at different percents, while maintaining its new focus. As for stats and other details, half of the base stats stayed the same. A lot of the design is actually pretty solid already, it's just dragged down by certain pervasive problems. Still has above average fall speed, a below average run backed by a very good initial dash for always useful burst movement, and middling size. Fair bit taller than the species' canon average height, but most Pokemon in Smash are sized up anyway. Which makes the changes that did happen stick out, like reverting Lucario's weight to what it was in Smash 4. Regaining those 7 points to be an upper and middle weight again lets him survive better at high percents and utilize the not as toxic anymore high aura levels more often. This species is surprisingly heavy for their size and canon, so it fits. And while I kept the run speed the same, Lucario's walk speed got a nearly 10% buff. Since you can do more when walking than running, this will make for more flexible movement that footsies-based characters always appreciate. I did tone down one stat though, airspeed, which is 5% slower now. Still very good, just 13th best now instead of 6th. Wanted to balance out the changes, and being slightly less effective at aerial approaches is fine since he's not as reliant on them anymore. These changes together have altered certain ratings and parameters. Frame data is merely below average now instead of bad outside of specific moves. Damage output has a lower ceiling than before, but a much higher floor. No more not being a real character until you're halfway to knockout range. Though knocking opponents out is a bit tougher now at high percents. We're de-emphasizing that ridiculous power in exchange for other buffs that give more consistency and finesse. Alright, I've hinted at it long enough. Before we go over how Lucario's moveset has changed, we need to talk about how the core mechanic has changed. His inner aura still gets stronger as he takes damage, but now it works differently. Instead of a sliding scale, there are 3 distinct levels of aura. The default base aura is active at 0%, a second high aura level kicks in when you reach 100% damage, and a third tier or max aura activates at 150%. Each subsequent level still causes all of his moves to deal more damage and knockback, though not as much as before. But you don't just get a power boost now. Several moves now gain bigger hitboxes at those higher levels, making Lucario's footsies tools better at playing their roles. And since the base level, active at 0%, is comparable to having 65% damage in Ultimate, players wouldn't get frustratingly hamstrung at the start of matches or right after losing a stock. This more thought-out take on aura bolsters Lucario's new game plan in multiple ways when it matters most, and keeps it from being a hindrance almost half the time. Tones down the cheese factor while still allowing for fun, interesting gameplay. Now how do we apply that to the moveset? Beginning with the basic attacks, all moves get damage buffs with stronger aura, and the ones with blue text gain bigger hitboxes. Lucario's jab combo starts with a quick palm strike instead of a full swing, hitting slightly faster, then strikes with the other palm, then finishes with a horizontal spin kick instead of a rising kick. The palm strikes specifically are inspired by moves from the Shaolin Kung Fu style of martial arts. Several of Lucario's moves in Smash come from it, and I wanted to maintain that inspiration. Forward tilt is a stronger palm strike like before, but now the resulting aura blast is fast enough to disperse the surrounding air. Sports a bigger hitbox now at all percents, especially 100 and 150, you saw the blue text, and comes out a frame or two faster, making it a better spacing tool while maintaining its KO threat. Lucario's up tilt is mostly unchanged. This surprisingly fast, long-lasting anti-air still sets up combos and juggle opportunities, but now it gets a little bigger with stronger aura. Down tilt starts with a low kick from before, but we're adding a second part, an outburst of aura that extends from Lucario's foot and reaches upward, similar to the one in the animation here. This new second part adds extra range, especially at high aura, and enough power to make it a finisher too despite the increased end lag, giving it a more defined niche. The kick part actually comes from Korean Hapkido. Lucario's Smash kit borrows from multiple schools of martial arts, which is pretty cool. Finally, a dash attack I left alone. Still a useful and surprisingly graceful burst option for landing traps and punishes that can eventually net knockouts, especially at max aura. On to Lucario's smash attacks, where, wait, what's this doing here? Force Palm's been repurposed from a special to his forward smash? Not a command grab anymore, but the blast of aura is the main threat now, hitting particularly hard up close and keeping respectable power at a distance too. It still gains extra range at higher aura levels, though less by 150 than it did originally for balance purposes. If this is here, what's his side special now? No time to wonder that yet. Next is Lucario's up smash. Setup is similar to before, but instead of a simple scooping uppercut, now his fist pulls in surrounding energy as he rises, creating a cone-shaped multi-hit attack that links into the final hit. With a bigger, more active hitbox, it should be more reliable now, even if its knockback is a little weaker. Then Lucario's down smash is inspired by a move the line just picked up in Gen 8. He strikes the ground with a powerful punch imitating a meteor's impact, creating an aura shockwave to his left and right. A slower yet stronger smash attack, it's similar in role to the old version, but with a cooler animation and a couple more active frames. Can even hit ledge hangs. Lucario's aerials got more quality of life updates than radical changes. Neutral air is similar to before, but now it comes out much faster, better for directly responding to opponents, and still works for combos, but it has a bit more end lag, so it's less safe when landed with, and the second part of the spin doesn't reach as far as the first, though at 100% or higher its overall range makes up for it. Forward air is the same as always, more or less. One of the few moves to have a pretty good hitbox originally, it's still as great a combo move as ever. But if you want power, Lucario's back air is also mostly unchanged. Strong but precise, it's built for punishes and callouts. Helps to have something still dedicated to that. High aura levels make its hitbox more forgiving now. Lucario's up air got the biggest change. Now it's a different type of kick, specifically in a backward arc above, without a flip, that creates a crescent-shaped wave of aura, like in the animation here but without any projectile motion. Maintains the original's low percent combos while gaining a more reliable, wider hitbox. Knockout power at high aura has taken a small hit, but this moveset has plenty of ways to take stocks anyway. Finally, I was not stupid enough to change Lucario's down air. This super fast double kick is too iconic to carelessly replace, and it plays a key part in clearing away foes below/right on you, catching recoveries, or stalling your momentum once per air time. Lucario's grab game is like his aerials, benefiting from small touch-ups, like his grab animations, which look the same, but now their startup is 1 frame faster. This puts them in line with most other brawlers that aren't intentionally slow, and lets his pretty good grab range go to work better. Pummel also got left alone. Expelling aura at point blank is unique to the character and one of the coolest looking pummels in the game already. Lucario's throws start with a new one though. His new forward throw is a variant of Force Palm built for close range, leading with a spin to give it more momentum. Only does 1 hit, not 2 like in the footage here. The back throw I left as is. This one's actually a judo throw, showing more of that mixed martial arts expertise. It's also great at forcing opponents off stage. Up throw is unchanged animation-wise, but stronger aura now makes the hitbox on the punch bigger. May not matter in 1v1 fights, but it can help in free-for-alls or team matches. Down throw got a similar treatment. Animation is similar, but now the opponent gets struck with an aura explosion when they hit the ground that gets bigger when your aura is stronger. Worth mentioning that up and down throws are combo starters at base aura, while back and up become kill throws at high and max aura respectively. Lastly, do Lucario's taunts need updates? Well, I kept his up taunt the same, though we can make the aura flare-up more vibrant at higher levels. Maybe it even gain a hitbox at max aura? Side taunt iterates on the current one. Now he moves his hand forward faster, then does the classic martial artist bring it motion. Down taunt is completely new though, closing his eyes briefly, balancing on one leg, holding his palms together, and exhaling calmly. Best to keep a level head mid-fight when you have that much power to keep control of. But what about Lucario's specials? Let's see what we can fix up here. Neutral special's pretty predictable though. Also, I kind of mentioned it a couple minutes in. Lucario's signature move stays right where it is. Mid-charge hitbox and charge cancel momentum mix-ups intact. Its power scaling does work differently now due to the revamped aura mechanic. From 0 to 99%, it's as big and strong as it was around 65% originally. Way more useful at low percents in exchange for being a little weaker in that 66 to 99 dead zone. But it kicks into gear again at 100% with a boost to size, power, and aesthetics. Then gets another one at 150% that makes it as scary as it is a sight to behold. These changes make Aura Sphere more worth using at low percents, and a backup finisher even if you lost your stock first, and while you need to reach 100 now for it to become a serious threat, you only need to survive at 150 now to use its full strength instead of somehow living to 190. Now, we moved Force Palm to Lucario's forward smash, so we need something new here. In its place is something that wasn't associated with this character until after Brawl. Bone Rush has grown into a core part of Lucario's move pool in the anime and spin-offs, despite not using actual bones as weapons or armor. But we can tap into the unique way the line does use it. On use, Lucario forms aura into the shape of a long, bone-like quarterstaff and performs a lunging thrust forward. At the end, he follows it up with a rising uppercut swing to knock any opponents in range away. But there's a little more to it. If you press A or B again during the lunge, you get an optional middle section consisting of a rapid series of stabs that rack up damage on anyone caught by the first part. The more you mash the buttons, the longer this section goes on, and when you stop, it finishes with the same uppercut swing as before. And this move too is affected by your current aura level. 100% damage makes the staff a little longer and deals more damage per hit, and at 150%, both get buffed again. Bone Rush is a disjointed gap closer that clears opponents away, with an optional extension that lets you commit harder for more damage as long as you don't let your target fall out. A unique Rekka type special that befits a martial artist, and it helps compensate for Lucario's subpar ground mobility and works as a recovery mix-up, though you go into freefall afterward. The first part's slightly diagonal knockback means it traps opponents for more rapid hits if you connect near the end of the initial thrust compared to the start, adding further risk versus reward since you'd have to use it from a more reactable range. Lucario's up special, no beating around the bush, I left this one mostly alone too. A fast, far-reaching yet vulnerable recovery move that requires thinking ahead, and since its max distance is based on your aura level, it gets better the more urgently it's needed. I did tweak its mechanics a little. Not only does it get buffed at the same 100/150% benchmarks and start out better than it currently does, its finicky steering controls in Ultimate are toned down, closer to how they worked in Smash 4. Still a very effective yet flawed recovery move with a hitbox only at the end, extreme speed requires presence of mind to get the most out of it. Not being as easy to accidentally SD with anymore should help too. Now what can we do for Lucario's down special? The old double team is pretty simple, and the line doesn't actually learn it naturally through leveling up. So how about something more distinct? Close Combat is a fighting type move from Gen 4 onward that hits hard but debuffs the user's defenses afterward, leaving them vulnerable to counterattacks if something goes wrong. Keep that in mind. On use, Lucario takes a defensive stance and gathers aura into his hands, gaining super armor that tanks up to a certain amount of damage dependent on your aura level. Then he spins around and unleashes a rapid series of aura-infused punches and kicks faster than the eye can see, dealing heavy damage to anyone who strayed too close or tried to hit you directly, finishing with a powerful final blow. Since the attacks are infused with aura, they leave disjointed fist and foot-shaped afterimages, sort of resembling the Pokémon Unite version of the move, that, you guessed it, get bigger and stronger based on your aura level. This isn't a typical counter move. It goes off whether someone hits you or not, so you're committed to the whole thing no matter what. Long animation and lengthy end lag included. Close Combat is a unique defensive option for calling out opponents who get predictable with their attacks. Can deal a lot of damage in clutch situations, but similar to your defenses getting weaker in the original games, you're very vulnerable if it whiffs or gets shielded, though it can poke a damaged shield. And the armor at the start does nothing against grabs. It's the kind of move that requires discipline to use well, the kind a master martial artist would have, in theory. And now we have Lucario's final smash. Does this one need a total overhaul? Not really, but we can touch it up. Starts the same as an ultimate, activates Mega Form, flies to high above the stage, and fires off a superpowered laser you can steer left and right. But now, halfway into the animation, Lucario brings his hands apart, splitting the beam in two. Pressing left or right now moves his hands outward or inward, adjusting the aim of both at once and making a previously finicky final smash easier to connect with. And all of the aura adjustments kick in here too, with the Aura Storm gaining bigger hitboxes if you've taken enough damage. More effective at 0% than before, still scary at 100%, and at 150, well, your opponents better hope you don't get to use it then. And there. A revamped version of Lucario in Smash that changes a handful of moves, retools his fighting style to function better while fitting thematically, and reworks his aura mechanic to be less polarizing to play as and against. What was once a design dragged down by an intrusive gimmick is now a competent, fun footsies-based fighter who also benefits from surviving at high percents by his entire game plan being more effective instead of just cheesier. All in a way that, hopefully, feels more in character for the species and this particular individual than before. I tried to walk a fine line for once since I changed the playstyle entirely for once, not just how the character goes about it. Actually wanted to work in even more real-life martial arts moves, but I'm sorely underinformed for that. By the way, shout out to SmashWiki for pointing out which moves are based on real techniques. I knew some were, just not which. Any Lucario mains in the audience, how do you feel about this one? Anyone who's shied away from the character in Smash, is this version one you're more interested in playing as? And if you want to see more remakes, check out the previous episodes, and some of my other Smash theorycraft stuff if you're into that. Special thanks to the following for helping make this video happen. Thanks as well to my patrons for their continued support. And now, they get to enter the ring. Anyone supporting me on Patreon for as low as $1 a month gets to vote on which of these two characters gets an episode next. Who'll it be, guys? So, until next time, can Pokken 2 happen already, please?